Yo, happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the last regular season episode of Motor City Realist Season 2. It's your boys, Zach and Mike, back in the studio. Mike, first of all, before we get into it, because I know it's going to be a tough subject, Happy New Year. How
Happy
was
New
the
Year.
holidays with the fam?
It was good. It was good. Not as much traveling this year. A little low key. I got to sit around and enjoy some Lions football and the rest of the
Yeah.
great games that there would. But yeah, overall, not a lot of travel. So, did you stay in Florida? Did you go back, or Did your family come to you?
Yeah, my family came to me, so it was the first time that they did that, the Florida trip for Christmas. So that was fun. But just took down the Christmas lights and all that stuff today, or yesterday and today. So, yep, we're
Nice.
into 2024. Time to turn that new leaf, get them resolutions out.
Yeah, New Year, New Year, New Year.
That's right.
But yeah, hey, let's preface this episode by saying we are the realists, the Motor City realists.
Yep, yep.
So, Zach,
We can quickly,
yeah.
we can quickly touch on because we didn't put out an episode last week, so we did clinch the division with that win against Minnesota. First time in 30 years we've won a division, so
Yep.
we got to give our props to the football team for that because that was
Absolutely.
huge. Nothing I've seen in my lifetime. I'm about to turn 30 next month, so first time that I've ever witnessed Lions win a division. Good stuff. Good Christmas present. I don't know if you have anything to say about that game, but it was.
No, it's I forgot. Yeah, you said you're about to turn 30. God, what a young man. I don't know how our paths cross because I feel like I call you junior. I'm 39. So, but yes, obviously can't really remember. I remember the Pontiac Silverdome days. I think we played the Jaguars in the playoffs, and that was like not too long after their expansion year or something along those lines, Barry. But my fondest memories are. I don't know if my dad planned it or we just randomly knew, but we made a trip. We stayed the night in Detroit, and we ended up staying at the Players Hotel.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
and it just worked out. And maybe he knew. I don't know, but I remember meeting Herman Moore, Johnny Morton. I rode the elevator with Barry Sanders, and
Really?
I think I was like 8 or 9, just starstruck. And I remember he was the only one that wouldn't sign an autograph. He wasn't mean, but he just did not want to talk, did not want to discuss it. But he wasn't rude. He just went on his way. Lomas Brown, I remember he was like 7 foot tall compared to me. But yeah, a fond memory. You're talking obviously never in your lifetime. I remember. Uh, you know, I gotta dig out those pictures. My dad and I got to get together. We've got a lot of memorabilia, autographs that we got to get together and sort through. But that was a great time. So
Yeah, I think.
moving forward, yes.
Yeah, I think my dad had a poster in his home office of that Lions versus Jags game. It was a picture of Barry in that game. So yeah, good. I remember. I mean, in my earliest memories, the Buccaneers were in our division. So like that was. But no, yeah. So won a
Throwback.
division. Yeah, it's good to get that off the chest. And then we went into Dallas, still alive for the 1 seed because a lot of things happened in Week 16 that helped us. And man, first off, like you said, we're realists. So if you really want to win a game, it shouldn't come down to the last play, right? But these are football games, and sometimes they do. And obviously, everybody and their mother knows what happened. The referees botched it. It just depends on who you believe at this point. Did he report? Did he not report? I mean, the video sure makes it look like he reports, but who knows? Just what are your thoughts with how that all played out, and if there's anything else in the game that you wanted to touch on?
Well, let's first. I mean, obviously we'll talk about that, but let's first say Zach and I. We always referenced. We broke down the year, kind of where we thought we'd be. We thought Dallas was going to be a tough one, anyways. I think I predicted a loss. Um, our most recent show, I think we both predicted a loss, but I think we both predicted to get kind of thumped pretty good because Dallas is coming off 2 losses. Kind of, you know, make a statement game, but even with a loss and as bad as this tastes, I am extremely excited to go into the playoffs at this point. No matter what seed, yeah, you want to have that home field, but I mean everything in this game. Campbell's lived and died by the fourth down, fourth and goal, fourth and here and the fake punt. I mean, look at I mean, we got 31 yards on a fake punt. We probably should have kicked a field goal early, but shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like you said, play shouldn't. I mean, the game shouldn't have gone down to one play. But overall, we couldn't stop CeeDee Lamb. So, hey, Dan Campbell said in the beginning, he said, "Hey, if we get in that situation, we're going for the win. We're not going for the tie." And I like that because, like I said, we couldn't stop CeeDee Lamb. He was torching us. All they had to do was get in field goal range. Granted, there was like 23 seconds. I think they had one timeout. But who knows? I mean, the way he was just able. I mean, I feel like we were able to kind of stifle him late, but he torched us. Other than that, I felt like that was a great game. I mean, overall, Aiden Hutchinson. I mean, nice to see him. He's had his spurts, ups and downs. He's still leading the league in pressures, I believe, and I think now he has 9.5 sacks, which he tied his rookie record. So you're talking, I mean, 19 sacks in 2 years for a second year player. That's pretty significant. Our defense coming around. Not even talk about what we'll talk about later. All these guys healthy, coming back. I don't know how big of a shock it was for you to see Bugs get released. If you saw that, going through. We talked about him early on the season, but yes, to go to that reffing situation. My wife doesn't watch a lot of football. I mean, she likes going to the game. She really enjoys it, but she doesn't. All season, she's been like, "Oh yeah." If she'll look at the score and the Lions are losing or something like that, or if they're up big, she's like, "They're going to lose." And I'm like, and here we are, the second to last game of the year. I was like, you don't even realize that we're like one of the top 5 best teams in the entire NFL, and you're busting my balls on this. So she sat there and literally watched the last 3 plays of that, and
Yeah.
you talk about emotion, up and down. I mean, I was standing, jumping. We won it. Then we threw an interception, but I saw a flag when Micah Parsons was offside, so I kind of knew. Then that last third try was that pass to Mitchell. Goff short armed it. But yes, to that situation, I feel we did everything right. Campbell said everything right. He said he went over it pregame, even on the drive. He wrote it out for them, let them know.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we had, Skipper was reporting all game. They said there was going to be a wrinkle in it. They talked about this, but that's where I feel like I go back to the NCAA, the NFL. It's a business, and I feel like there's times that, hey, they can get away with this stuff, and it doesn't matter. And you see it here, whether the Lions should have lost or not. They could have kicked the field goal early, and it wouldn't have been an issue. But here we are in the situation, fighting for it, and now you got a little different aspect of things. You got the national media kind of. I wouldn't say on your side, but saying these officials. I don't know if you saw Rex Ryan. I mean, he just went completely nuts about these guys owing the referees need to come out and claim their mistakes. Said you can't blame that on players. Obviously,
even Aaron Rodgers came out on the defense of the Lions.
Yeah, and it's cool to see, but honestly, like I said, I thought we were gonna get smoked. I thought we played well. We're getting people back. I feel like that game, even a loss, it didn't bother me as bad as it probably should have, and I feel like it was almost just as good as a win going into this next game, and I feel like we're ready to throttle Minnesota.
Yeah, that's funny you say that, because I do feel bad for Minnesota going into this game, because they are going to get the absolute most ruthless version of the Lions that you could possibly get.
And Campbell said that.
Yeah, but yeah, it was a good game. It was kind of a weird game. You had the CeeDee Lamb fumble at the 1 yard line. They gave us the ball back, and that was kind of a lifesaver. We had the interception. Yeah, Jalen Reeves-Maybin with the fake punt pass, which I think he was like the first defensive player in franchise history to complete a pass, and to do it on 4th down. In Jerry world, that's crazy. But
and did you see? I don't know if you saw this. The Pro Bowl roster was just released, and he made the Pro Bowl this year. The Pro Bowl
I didn't
roster, know that. Him, Hutchinson, obviously Frank Ragnow, Laporta, and then we had a bunch of alternates, stuff like that. I just saw that not too long ago, but it was cool to see him on there. But yes, him chucking that pass, and honestly, to tell you the truth, hey, if it was a good pass, which we'll take what we can, that reception would have gone for a touchdown.
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, in all things considered, it was a pretty good pass. But it's funny because the way this game ended, I actually texted my brother before the game even started. And this, I'm going to read it to you. So this is verbatim what I said. Honestly, my only hope for this game tonight is that it's not a ref show. Can't walk away from this game feeling cheated. Other than that, I'm ready to accept any result. Okay, so that's what I said before the
How
game.
did you swallow that pill?
So maybe I manifested it. I don't know. But point is, like, losing a close game where we were competitive against the Cowboys at this point is nothing to hang your head about. These two teams are potentially on a crash course to play each other in the playoffs. So this could be a rematch, and at least now you kind of know what you're dealing with. Obviously, CD Lamb being the biggest issue that you've got to cover up. But yeah, like you said, the defense, Aiden Hutchinson get on the stat sheet. It was just and it was another one of those things where, it's we call it Matt Stafford time, but maybe it's just at this point it just could be like we could call it Goff time or Ben Johnson time. I don't know what, but they drew up a series that they needed, ran right down the field, nice touchdown to Amon-Ra, and then it's a similar situation in my house where I'm up there, I'm clapping because we got the 2-point conversion, we won the game. It feels like. Then they throw this flag, and I'm like, what is going on? And then the offsides, and at this point, my fiance, who's similar to your wife and is like, we'll watch football, but isn't so much into it that like we are. She goes, why don't they just kick it? And I was like, yeah, honestly, they probably should, but this is Dan Campbell and he's not going to do that. So, and it's, I kind of, we keep saying this. And at this point we should be used to it, but he leans into who he is and he's just real, and he's like, I'm just going to go for 2. I don't care if you back me up to the 40-yard line, I'm going for 2. Like that, this is what it feels like. And you just kind of know what you're going to get. And one line that he said after this game that struck me where I was like, we're going to be good. I think this helps us is he said, we built this roster for a reason. They'll be fine. And that was like, all right, these guys are going to be ready to go come playoff time. They're not going to let something like this get them down. And so that was pleasing to see, I think.
And I think this bodes well because, like I said, you're getting McNeil back. You're getting, CJ Gardner-Johnson. You're getting, other players, Levi maybe back. I mean, you're getting Houston. I mean, you're getting pieces back, some big pieces that are potential starters from all season that were out for a while. And obviously, like, again, I referenced Bugs getting released. He gave a shout out to the fans, basically to the city. He said he's moving on. As soon as I saw that, I knew there was something going on, which I think he took that in stride, especially early in the season where he's been ups and downs. And he played good for us, But that just shows, we talked early on, we have to make difficult roster decisions. We've never had to do that. Now we're making those. We're getting good. So it's also nice. Obviously, I don't want to lose, but you're still potentially playing for a number 2 seed. Something that makes. So basically, you got CJ Gardner-Johnson's coming back, so he's going to get playing time. You got to work him into this game, obviously get him in game shape. The rest of these guys. So this is like the best case scenario. I do think we should slack Minnesota, but in the back of your mind, is there like a letdown game? Like you're worried, or is it like, okay, because Justin Jefferson, kind of that last game, we shut him down to the second half, and then all of a sudden he went off on us, Or do you think like, man, pedal to the metal, like these boys just got screwed over and they know, and they're going to ride into the playoffs, and they're just going to put it on them?
Yeah, we're like you mentioned, we're giving pieces back to the defense, so it depends on how much of a period there is there of just gelling back together as a unit. But I could see our offense lighten it up. I could see them being in a position where like we don't want to drive down the field and rely on the refs to correctly report our players, but all jokes aside is like, let's put the fate in our hands instead of the refs' hands. And I really think that's the mentality that they're going to have, because I touch on it all the time. It's not like the NFL is when you say rigged, people think it's like scripted to a T, and that's not really what it means. It's just like they will favor games in ways that they want to because they can. They're an entertainment industry, and it's Jerry's world, and they're honoring Jimmy Johnson at halftime, and it's probably like, let's give the Dallas Cowboys a win, and we just happen to be on the bad side of that, and it is what it is, right? Dan Campbell almost gets lionized in that way, like, welcome to the Detroit Lions. This is what we've been used to. But I think that I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but back to the Minnesota game. All this is going to play into. I just think they're going to take this Minnesota game as seriously as possible. They're gonna approach it so professionally that it should look like a clean game. And if it doesn't, I think the only reason that it doesn't is because the defense is trying to gel with each other again as a starting unit, which you also want to see happen before we hit the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like, with that being said, like, I mean, I shouldn't say halfway through the season, we had a bad loss, and you and I were both like, man, that totally derailed the season. There's still a lot of football left, but like this really makes things, go in check. But do you feel like I kind of assume your position on this? Do you feel like going into Minnesota, locked up the division? Do you feel like we've already overachieved this season at this point?
I think I think we've achieved is how I
Okay.
would put it. Like I think this is what we were supposed to do. Even if we wouldn't have won the division, because I honestly at the beginning of the season thought that Minnesota was going to win the division, and we got in as a wild card, maybe 1 or 2 games behind them. I would have said that was fine too. But this, I think, is the biggest factor is going to be winning a playoff game because that we also haven't done it forever.
So the way the season shaped up, would you have, say, 5, 6 games ago, would you figured, okay, we're gonna get in the playoffs, we're gonna run into somebody, we're gonna lose? Now are you thinking, man, we got some momentum, people are coming back, there's some health. This is an actual team that people are gonna kind of look at and be like, this is a real team. They're not just kind of squeaking the playoffs.
Yeah, I think it's good. I have more faith now than I did. I know previously we talked about like this team was going to make the playoffs, but they weren't necessarily a scary contender. But with the way things are happening in the NFC, I don't really know that anyone. Obviously, the Eagles they've lost what 3 in a row or
Yeah, granted, it's a bad thing to go into playoffs. But I feel like, yeah, they'll probably hit their stride, but I don't think that they're up there. Although I've seen a few people pick them versus Miami this year for the Super Bowl recently, but I don't know. Obviously, San Francisco still looks good. Seattle can always creep all over
yeah.
you, but we talked about it in previous. My probably biggest scare for me is just the whether we're out of this black cloud, this Detroit curse or not. Is there a way that we run into Matt Stafford and this just screws us?
I mean, I think I think that's what the NFL wants. I think honestly, I see it going like we play the Rams and Stafford, and so Stafford's back at Ford Field playing a playoff game, and they're going to show the stat
He's
like
not a guy. He's not a guy that you're gonna boo.
right, and honestly, I like our chances in that game. I think the Rams are a scary team and they can put together a good game, but I like our chances in that game. But what it sets up is us playing the Cowboys the very next week. And that's the kind of drama that the NFL, what I say scripting or rigging is they line stuff up like that where now that those outcomes become more likely and those create more stories, more people writing articles about the NFL. Look, you got Stafford playing Detroit, and then you've got the rematch of the game that all of America saw where Brad Allen destroyed the Lions. And these are the things that just like they ramp up ratings, So that's how you understand it.
So basically, it's so funny because like you look at like the WWE, AEW, like wrestling, like you've got writers that script this stuff. They know to a T. I'm sorry if anybody's watching and they believe in Santa or the WWE, but I'm going to break it to you. You got writers. You alluded to, you're not saying that obviously it's scripted like that, but
Right.
how it's just like Vegas. Vegas can literally make or break you. They're talking about, I don't know if you've seen this in this kind of off subject, but you got players that are playing for incentives, different things. The biggest thing that more so people are mad about the Detroit Dallas game is people are betting on these games, and then basically the referees are taking it away from,
Yeah.
So to say it's written, obviously no, but I mean, do you think, and this is really hypothetical and just this is out there, this is one of those things, like, do you think there really is, I mean, like some way that they just sit there a year in advance, they look at the schedule and they say, oh, hypothetically we can do this, that way when the playoffs come up we can line up the 1 versus the 6, or the seed, and it would be Detroit versus Matthew Stafford coming to town, and like you said, I mean, rating. I mean, I feel like every year the most unheard of scenarios happen, and I feel like every year it happens somehow. And I know this is delusional. I'm just saying, like, just playing into this. Like, I
I
mean,
think
what are the odds of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it starts from week one like that, but I think they look at at least the way I would theorize is that they look at the way things are playing out through 5, 6 weeks, maybe 8 or 9 weeks, and then they start going, okay, this is what this could line up. Because honestly, if you put any two teams together, you could create some sort of storyline, right? So you just kind of look for the ones that are stronger as you approach what teams are in playoff contention, which ones are not, which ones can go on a roll, and then yeah, this is very well a situation where maybe it's like right before game time. The NFL folds down to the refs because there's no accountability. That's the main thing. You can't the players can't even talk bad about the refs in press conferences. So there's nothing holding the refs accountable, and they're hired by the NFL. So there's nobody holding the NFL accountable. Obviously, they're just an entertainment business.
So basically, did you see Brad Allen's crew? I think they got dumped from the playoffs or something
Yep.
like that immediately after, and now they are doing the primetime game this week, the
Yeah.
Baltimore
I
whatever,
saw
and
that.
it's like, and don't get me wrong. Again, we're not saying that the referees are the ones. We're just we're just having fun with it hypothetically. But I mean, we haven't even touched on. Did we? I know this is totally off topic, but I mean, did we completely ruin Russell Wilson in the Denver Broncos after the beating them?
Yeah, he's not even that whole scenario is nuts because
What
now
that is
he's
the
getting benched.
weirdest. They're essentially like his clause literally is we have to pay you a bonus if you get hurt.
Yeah.
So basically, they're benching him so he doesn't get hurt, so he doesn't get a bonus. Like the whole like the stuff that people come up with, the terms and contracts. I mean, I feel like this is stuff you watch in movies and it just comes to light. And I guess again, that's the parody of the NFL. That's why there's so much behind it that you're just like, I mean, how is this stuff real?
Yeah, so on the topic of just having fun with it, what keeps Russell Wilson from just like hiring someone to come break his leg, and then he
That
gets a
and
huge
that's what I
bonus?
saw. So basically, on social media, they were saying, well, does it have to be in a game? Does it
Yeah,
is it an off field? You know, I
yeah,
mean, so like hypothetically, like someone's going to try to cash in on this. You know, like I mean, just
yeah.
the whole scenario, and that goes again to a betting. So basically, last week I wanted to take Denver. I was on Denver early on, and then they came out with the news they were benching Russell Wilson. I'm like, all right, so that changes things. So I
Hmm.
slid over to Texans with CJ Stroud coming back. I got that game, but I mean, there's so much like I feel like getting away from what we're doing on the show, obviously Detroit sports. There's so much money involved that anything, I mean, really is not off the table, and it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, especially when the leagues start getting in bed with the sports books and they're now sponsored or they're affiliates and they're
Yeah,
promoting each other. That's when I was like, I'm done betting on the NFL because as soon as you put money in, then you're just part of the statistic where they're looking at it like, and obviously this
keep
is
bumping
this is
up the prices,
conspiracy
keep bump.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
where
I mean, this
they
has
phoned
nothing to
down
do
at the
with what we're
beginning.
talking about.
Yeah, and they're like, hey, Brad, we've got a ton of money on Lions money line right now. We have to make sure that doesn't happen, right? And so now they get down to the end, and they're like, Brad knows Dan Campbell's going to go for two. I know he's going to go for two. I know what he's going to call, and I am gonna. You see how fast he walks away from that huddle where they're reporting? Like he's
It
like,
may
I
take
just got
three
to.
tries. It may take three
Yeah,
tries, but you cannot let them get in the end zone.
yeah, exactly. So it's like conspiracy level stuff, but I'm just saying, like, when they're in bed with each other and there's no accountability on the refs, there's no accountability on the league because they're entertainment, there's nothing that keeps this stuff from happening. And you can theorize about it all day and put your tinfoil hat on and say you're just conspiracy theorists. But at the end of the day, it's a possibility because of the way that it's all set up.
Yeah, it's funny, and again, this has nothing to do with our show, but it's just funny to look at
Yeah.
things. We're not saying anything scripted. Again, we should have never been in a
We were,
situation where we needed to
yeah,
take
yeah.
point.
We
We
were
should have
never
kicked
going
the
to
field
talk
goal.
about it, but they did it to us. So we
Yeah,
had to.
and actually, right before the show, Zach goes, "We're going to talk about the elephant in the room." I said, "I'm not even going to touch it. We're not even going to talk about it." So but looking forward, we previously kind of just mentioned obviously Minnesota. We both think that we should go into this game and kind of shellac them. Obviously, we do our predictions and stuff like that. The past couple weeks, I feel like offensively, defensively, we've come around. Do you feel like? I guess let me ask. I haven't 100% seen that CJ Gardner Johnson is going to play. I'm assuming he is to get his legs under him. what kind of impact do you feel like he's going to have? Do you feel like early in the season where he's just a leader, he's a dog, but do you think he's going to cost us a penalty here or there and just get so jacked that he's going to hit somebody? Like early in the season, we talked about, he had some stupid penalties, but it's like,
Yeah.
you can't not like that. You want that fire. Like, are you okay? I guess, especially this part of the season where he comes in and he's just out there. I mean, he's just at it.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, it's a fine line. We want to see the intensity, but you're right. I think it was the first game of the season where
It was first or second. Yeah, it was a big penalty.
unnecessary roughness. And it's like, it's one of those things where, like, you kind of know that that's what's going to come with this guy. I hope he gets it all out in week 18 and doesn't do it in the playoffs and cost us a playoff game. But that's kind of what I'm, I guess, keeping my eye on in this last game is what level of intensity and how much he can rein it in when necessary. So I think that'll be interesting to see. I don't know if Minnesota is not playing for a playoff spot.
They're still technically not eliminated, and they just announced Mullins as their starter again.
Yeah,
so a lot of things got to happen for them, but
it's a tricky game. It's a tricky game to figure out what's going to happen, right? Because the Lions, you don't want to injure anybody, but you're also going to be coming out with a lot of fire. Minnesota's still vying; they need some things to happen, but they're still vying for a playoff spot. But I think if the Packers win, the Vikings aren't in anyway.
Yeah,
so I don't know. It's gonna be interesting to see how both teams play it. And this one's in Minneapolis, right?
Yeah.
We played the first one at home.
I believe, yes.
I don't know. This is a tough one to, and obviously, like, as a Lions fan, we've never been in this situation where we can literally blow a game and still our season still goes on. So I don't know. It's I don't know if I can predict a score on this one. I would say something like, I think I would go like 27-20. Yeah, I'll go 27-20.
I feel like
Detroit.
35-14.
Yeah, I mean, it could get up there though. That's the thing.
But I mean, I just feel like Justin Jefferson is kind of like CeeDee Lamb. He's just one of those guys that can open up the game no matter what. I feel like I mean, I'm sure you've noticed our secondary has been. We've been trying new guys. We've seen some different guys back there. We've seen some guys really play. I mean, we swung and missed early on I can't pronounce it. Iwafana Mentu or whatever.
Yeah, Melifonwu.
Yeah, Melifonwu. Yeah, which he was hurt early on in his rookie year. Wasn't sure if it was going to pan out, and now he's coming back. He's playing great. And it's funny because, like, when you talk about these broadcasters and stuff like that, they talk about, oh, this guy's a budding star. He the past couple games, and it's like, all right, yeah, that's what I want to hear too. But they're not following the Lions. But you got guys in the secondary. Again, I continue to talk about different guys that never even seen before on this active roster. But one thing that we don't talk a lot about is contracts and stuff like that. And C.J. Gardner-Johnson was on a kind of a make it deal this year, kind of a prove it deal. His stock took a hit because he didn't play. But do you feel like I just feel like, not to put too much stock into one thing, but I feel like a guy like that, as personal as he is, a leader, and with the Eagles being relevant still, that I feel like he's one of those guys that is going to take us deep into the playoffs, even though he's not necessarily. I don't think you can necessarily earn a contract in 2-3 weeks, but I feel like there's something special that's going to happen with his leadership. And I don't know what's going to happen. I would love to resign him, see what's happened. Obviously, we got money. We'd be the first one on the hook for him. But we're talking a lot about him. But I just feel like there's something behind him that I really am excited about to take us kind of deep in the playoffs.
Yeah, I got a gut feeling that he will return to Detroit, and I don't know why. It may be another prove it deal. It would almost have to be for the Lions for it to make sense for Detroit, right? Because they're like, you didn't really play, so in order to come back, like, we're gonna do this 1 year thing again. But I don't know. He also could have a big game, like Nick Mullins. Like, you can pick off Nick Mullins a couple times in a game. I think recently he threw 4 picks in the game, and like a lot of them were deep passes. But he's a quarterback that you can pick off a couple times, and if CJ Gardner-Johnson gets in on that, who knows? But I get the feeling that he likes being in Detroit, and especially if we do run into the Eagles, if we get that far,
Kind of be
that.
the cherry on that, top.
Yeah,
So,
put just fuel to the fire, and so
but
that
anyways, I
could
think
be
we're both
interesting.
in obviously agreement of kind of going forward, the expectations, the excitement around it. We've overachieved, but now we're to the point where overachieving maybe actually means, hey, we're going to take a decent run in the playoffs. I shouldn't say deep, a decent run. I think maybe early on we thought, hey, we get in the playoffs, that's good. We'll be happy. It'll probably be another loss, but I think there's a lot of excitement about it. There's a real
Yeah,
opportunity, especially the way teams are playing. So
yeah,
yeah, we'll see.
and yeah. The other thing we got to touch on with guys like that coming back is, and you mentioned it, Bugs, gone, Bruce Irvin gone. Bugs was kind of up and down throughout the season. Bruce Irvin was here as a veteran guy, came in for I think 9 weeks. Campbell said he loved having him here, but what was your thoughts when you saw those decisions go
Well, see,
down?
I saw, and I'll have to verify, and maybe you can pull it up. Is I saw that they elevated him from the practice squad,
Who?
not too long ago. Unless he was elevated in practice, I didn't see what the timestamp was on it for Irving.
Oh,
I saw that they made like a flurry of moves. They could have released him since, but that could have been, and that's been how out of touch I have been this week with things. I know they
yeah. It
elevated him.
looks
They
like
could have.
earlier today they cut him from the practice squad.
Okay, so yes, they elevated him. They cut him. So either way, basically they had to make roster moves, and I mean that's again, he was one of those names that 5 years ago in his prime, he still played good for us. He still had a motor, but
Yeah.
the general scope of things, that's where we're at. So yeah, that is surprising. Obviously, to say I saw him elevated, but hey, got to do what you got to do. We talked about that early on. Hey, we're in this position that nobody's been in. Zach hasn't been in his lifetime to see the playoffs.
Right.
We haven't been in years to where we've had to make roster transactions that stung a little bit. So overall, in looking forward to the draft. We've talked about our needs and what we want to do, and I think probably next week, going into the playoffs after this game, we'll evaluate Goff one more time, because I feel like that verdict is still out there. I still am a Goff guy, but there's things about him, and it goes back to this James Mitchell throw, to where basically he could have walked into the end zone basically after those 2 penalties, and he threw it at his legs. There's certain things. The JMO, we didn't even talk about the 60-yard bomb. All of a sudden he finally unloads one, and that's been the
Yeah.
general census, is he hasn't been able to hit that pass. But if you get it to JMO, he's going to run right by anybody in the secondary.
Yeah, that was the play. I'm glad you brought that up because I forgot about it. That was the play I've been looking for all season, where it's just like, just throw it up there and he'll run under it. And so yeah, that was exciting to see. But yeah, it's interesting times. We're gonna see how this shakes out. I'm excited to go forward, see how the playoffs shake out. But yeah, that's about it. We got our predictions in for the Minnesota game. Anything else that you want to touch on as far as the Detroit Lions go?
No, I think the Lions were good. You want to give us a little Red Ring roundup. There we go. It's too fast. Red Wing roundup. What's going on? Last we talked was, do the Red Wings have a Patrick Kane problem?
Yeah,
How
and then
have we for the casual fans? How have we fared since?
Yeah, he shut me up real quick. Actually, I probably owe him an apology. He probably doesn't listen to the show, but yeah, Showtime. I apologize. He next game he came out. I think he scored and assisted on every goal or something like that, and he did that for a few games. Was just in the stat sheet, and good to see. Still need everyone else to gel. And it's interesting because we talked about everybody being so tired from all these games that are happening because they had to fit them all in after the Sweden trip.
Yeah.
And obviously Kane being the most fresh out of them because he didn't play for us at the beginning of the season. So it's interesting to see all that shake out. But now you started a new year. They started their West Coast trip and they beat San Jose yesterday. And then they play in LA tomorrow, then Anaheim after that. Sweeping this West Coast trip would be awesome. Won the first game, like I said, got 2 more. Then we come home, play the Oilers. But we've kind of caught up in games played now. So time to take that breather. Time to play at the pace of the rest of the NHL, who are going to be having. I think we've actually got other teams had games in hand now, so they're going to be playing more games going forward. And that's just kind of where we're at. We still like I touched on Kane was putting up stats, but we were losing games still, more games than we'd like to lose. Now we're behind Tampa in the standings, so we're not in a playoff spot anymore. I don't believe, but need to use this new year to revitalize, especially this West Coast trip. Get everybody back on that mentality of, hockey's better when Detroit is good. So
Yes.
that's what
And
we
I think
want.
you even, a couple episodes ago, you even when we were sitting in that 2 spot behind Boston, you still mentioned that this is probably a team that probably if they get in, they squeak into the playoffs. You never said that they were going to keep up this run. Obviously, it's nice to see Kane being the one that kind of is glued us together. I don't know if you've seen this though, and I don't. Again, I love getting my news from social media because it's like if it's on Facebook, if it's on anything, it's real, right?
Yep.
Have
Yep.
you seen any rumblings? And this is I have no. I mean, did you ever see? Because Kane came out and he has a no trade clause, right?
Oh, I don't know that.
I think. But
He
have you seen
probably
any
does.
rumblings about potentially trading Kane?
I have not. Have you?
So, and this is from people. This is not from like authorized sources. It's just funny
Yeah.
the people that get on social media and they talk about things because I thought his contract was fully guaranteed basically, and it had a no trade clause, something like that. So obviously he could pick and choose, but he came here for a reason, especially on this deal. So it was funny when I saw that. I was just interested to see if you saw anything like that. But yeah, overall, I always mention goalkeeping. How recently, what you feel about our goalkeeping, and what are your thoughts going forward?
Goalkeeping is still the biggest question. Okay, so I pulled it up since you brought it up. It turns out that so insiders are thinking Kane will make an appearance on the trade bait board. So there are rumors about him getting traded,
Okay.
just because things aren't going in Detroit the way that they thought they were going to go after they. But I'm going to keep my eye on that. So thanks for tuning me into that. Yeah, goaltending don't really have a consistent. I would say number one goalie. So that's going to be that's the reason that I don't think we're a contender yet. Got some youngins in the wings that we're hoping in the wings. You see what I did there? But no, they're waiting in the wings, hoping to get a chance. I think one of them down in the AHL. And then I think another one that we recently drafted. So that's just, I just don't think we're going to get there until we solve our goaltending problem.
I agree.
Am I cutting in and out?
Yeah, just a little bit. You're fine, but I agree. That's kind of what I was mentioning. I don't know if you're hearing me, but yeah, overall, get our RedWings roundup there. But before we go, a little quick round table here. I don't know if you have anything. I've got something, but I don't know if anything from the sports world, anything that's going on right now, anything that's burning. So basically, we're going to talk about the Detroit Pistons quickly. They finally got their win. I think
they did.
The books were like outrageous. Like it was like plus 3,000 for the Pistons to win for the rest of the 2023 season. They got their win. I've read a lot of coach saying that this is the hardest thing he's ever gone through. And he's he's a very well decorated coach. He's done a lot of things. People saying that they're not sure if he's the right guy. Tom Gord, they need to sell the team. But obviously it's one win. It doesn't make anything right, but it's so funny. So basically, at this point, I feel like the Pistons are at a point of no return this season, so it doesn't matter. So if they for the for the psyche of the Pistons, because that's a young nucleus, and I don't know if you've seen this. This is all over the place, but are you willing to trade a Pistons potential Owen rest of the season for a Lions Super Bowl?
Yes, 100%. 100%. And then you know what I would do if I was the Pistons? I would trade the first pick.
Get rid of it.
You have too many young guys. Yeah.
We need some veterans.
Yeah, exactly, man. That's that. I feel like that's got to be the move. But no, it's so funny you say that because they did get the win at the end of 2023, right? So it's like they obviously here we go, sportsbooks again. Don't want to pay everyone out that plus 3,000 that they put on.
How did they know? Well, I'm sure they didn't know, but there was some way that it was just probably going to happen.
2-point win. So, but no, one thing I wanted to bring up because you brought it up earlier in our season Jaden Ivey not getting minutes, and I've seen recently that that's still a thing. Is Jaden Ivey feels like he's or I don't know if it's Jaden Ivey that feels like it or if it's insiders
It,
that feel like he's not getting
it's
enough minutes.
I think he's kind of slowly publicly said stuff, but based off the insiders, they're saying why is this guy not getting minutes, and it's a kind of a treacherous line that you're walking because you're talking to a second year player who had a good rookie season, obviously a huge part of our core, but I don't know what the deal is between coach and him. So that's kind of a scary thing. You talk, obviously, I mean, could he be in a package to get some veterans? I mean, sure, you could package something like that, but I mean, tons of potential. I just don't know. I mean, I look at we lose all the time, but I look at the box score and it's Cade Cunningham 30 plus points, and that's it.
Yeah,
When Dern plays, he's a double machine, but he's been in and out. But I mean, there's no productivity from anybody, and I just don't know. Like, I think they said since Quad Bay has been traded to Atlanta, Detroit is 2 and like 48 or something like that.
jeez.
And I don't. Again, we're not big. I mean, obviously, we're Detroit fans, we're Pistons fans, but we're not really in depth to or close to the team where we really analyze and look at it. But I mean,
Yeah,
there's just
this
well,
year
I
in our
mean,
year.
what? Yeah, I mean, I mean, really, I haven't looked back since the Tayshaun, Chauncey, Rashid,
Yeah,
those days. It's stuff like that. That was fun to watch basketball, and I feel like that's the difference between basketball and hockey. Like if your team's good all season long, it's fun to watch. Where hockey, your team can squeak into the playoffs, and then once they're in the playoffs, the season resets because playoff
yeah.
hockey is
Anything
totally
can
different.
happen. Yeah,
It's totally different. There's a different scenario. There's a different culture. I don't know if I mentioned this. My daughter went to a walleye game not too long ago at school. Every time there's a walleye commercial, she's like, "That was the game we were at. Like that was the game we were at." And I'm just like, it's this whatever. But that's something that I want to take. I think I've mentioned, when I was in Toledo area that we were spoiled to have that, like kind of right in your backyard. So to be able to go there, we're kind of in between Toledo and the Cincinnati Cyclones. So we could go either way, but just to have those establishments, and there's just even, I mean, you don't have to be a huge hockey fan just to enjoy it. I mean, that's why I always follow them. I always like taking your input because obviously that's your bread and butter. You love it. You live and breathe that. That's what you guys you do. But there's so much insight. There's so much fun around it. I mean, I have you haven't really said. Have you gone to any Lightning games this year?
I went to one on New Year's Eve actually.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, so that was fun. But no, yeah, being by Toledo, that's cool because I mean, some of those, at least a couple of those guys are bound to be Red Wings
Yeah, come
eventually.
through. Yeah.
So yeah, that's cool to see. Yeah, I've been to a couple Lightning games this year, not as many as previous, but yeah, it's always fun to live, even if it's minor league, like you said, like it's fun to live in a hockey city or near a
Yeah.
hockey city. It just like it. I feel like it makes the winters a little more bearable. But all right, so for my roundtable, we got to at least mention it. The Florida State Seminoles got absolutely destroyed by the Georgia Bulldogs. Now I understand that these rosters are a little depleted going into
Yes.
because nobody cares at this point. But then the CFP. Finally, did you watch both games?
Yes.
Finally, like 2 semifinal games that were awesome.
Yes.
Like we never get that. And
can I time out real quick?
Yeah,
Can I?
yeah.
I thought you were gonna your roundtable was gonna be Epstein's list, so I appreciate that. So, but no, I agree with.
Did the list come out?
Yes, I haven't even seen. I just saw some spat between Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Kimmel, but
yeah, I saw that too. Yeah.
No, I agree with you. Honestly, I mean, I think probably two of them. I wouldn't say Texas should have won that easily, nor would I have said Alabama should have won that easily. But probably I look at both. I feel like both games were maybe minor upsets, but I mean, hey, it just adds to the level. But yes, like you said, great games. The Alabama Michigan game that came down to a botch snap, which is totally crazy. And we were talking about this earlier today. Some of my buddies, we were talking about how Michigan just wiped the table with Alabama in the first half. I mean, they just did whatever they wanted. And whether you love Saban or hate him, he's kind of like Bill Belichick. you get him to halftime and he makes adjustments and they come out and it's like a totally different game.
Yeah.
And for them to lose the way they did, and obviously, for those of you who don't pay attention to Washington's quarterback, he played for Indiana for a short time, so we saw him in the Big Ten. But I mean, they pretty much said that he played such a good game. Did he get did he get screwed out of the Heisman because his game, the way he played, I mean, he was threading the needle. So, like you said, two great games. Really excited for the national championship. Probably the first time, even without Ohio State, because Ohio State. You talk about Florida State getting smacked. Ohio State. It just shows they had no business. And the scary thing, my reference to Ohio State is you're still a prestigious school. You still have high recruits, and you put up 3 points even with your backups. These guys are 5-star players. They should still be able to play football. So, but and it's the same thing with Florida State. Granted, that quarterback was a stud, but there's no reason that should have happened to them. I mean, Georgia's a different team, but I mean, it's just kind of the parody of the NCAA as well. We talked about the parody of the NFL, so
like Florida State had a ton of players sit out that game.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ohio State did too. Just thank God we didn't get Ohio State versus Florida State, right? That would have been terrible.
But, I mean, that would have been like a 3-point game to like a field goal, just wins it. I mean, literally 3-0.
3-0. Minnesota, the Vikings and Raiders game earlier.
Yes, I mean, and then I mean, not to, but then Raiders will hang almost 60 points the next week. So
yeah,
it's just, I mean, it's whatever.
Yeah, I was hoping for Michigan, Texas. I thought that would have been an electric final, but yeah, like you said, Michigan pretty good first half, then just finished it out in overtime. And then, Texas, Steve Sarkisian getting a lot of heat for that play calling at the end of the game, which was interesting because they drove right down the field. Like, it was no big deal. And then kind of botched it in the red zone. But
so as a Michigan State guy, then are you a Big Ten player, Michigan player? Are you looking on Michigan?
Yeah, my entire family is Michigan fans. That's why I grew up a State fan, because I just wanted to be different. So I pull for Michigan for them. But no, it should be 2 undefeated teams, so it should be a good game. Should be a good game. But that's all I got. That's all I got to ring in the new year.
I like it. Yeah, we Happy New Year. Obviously, we talked obviously about the Lions, what everybody expected. Here we are, Wednesday. Everybody's heard enough about it, but should have never been in that situation. Here we are. Whatever.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Brad Allen is on Epstein's list.
Well, I mean, one can only allege, but anyway. So obviously, looking at next week, Minnesota. We'll be back after that game. We'll break down that game. Excuse me. Talk about the playoffs by then. We'll kind of have a kind of a better general census of what we're looking. But it'll be interesting to see who we pair up with, what it's going to look like. Just want a healthy game, and we had our predictions in, so definitely we both have the Lions here, so I'm all aboard. But Zach, man, I mean, you started us. I'll let you take us out first. The first show of the new year. So
yeah, that's right. And we'll have an update on the RedWings road trip. So cheers to all you East Coast people that stay up. This is the week you stay up till 10:30 to watch the games.
Watch them.
And then we'll also let you know how many more games the Pistons lost. But for the first episode of the year, it's been a good one. Thank you all for joining. For those of you who joined in live, we appreciate it. And those listening on the podcast, we appreciate y'all as well. Share with your friends if you like it. Let anyone else in the Detroit, or if you're a fan of FAR like I am, and Mike, technically he's in Ohio, then share it with them as well, because I'm sure they'd love to hear it. Thank y'all for tuning in, and happy and successful